Time for the bench, and my guest today, the chairman of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, the NCIC, the Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia. Reverend Doctor, great to see you again.
Thank you.
And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jeff.
Now, today you launched what you call your strategy plan for the next, I guess, few years, right?
5 years.
Next 5 years. You're calling it Election Bila
Norma.
Go on, explain that to us.
Yeah. You know, the strategic plan that we have launched today for the next 5 years, we have looked at it and especially given that we have launched it at a very critical time in the election cycle of Kenya. We have therefore decided that the major program that we are going to have at the start of this strategic plan is elections bila norma. That is that we want to start to work. In fact, on the 10th of December of last year is when we launched the roadmap to elections bila norma. We know that NCIC is a creature of the efforts towards making sure that Kenya will not go back to 2007, 2008. Because it's that violence, the way it had started, etc. Now, what we wanted to do is to look at what actually triggers election-related violence. And then we deal with each of that. And so elections bila norma is not only at the time of election itself, is this whole process. And we have divided the period from December of last year into 8 quarters. Every 3 months, we'll have a major activity that will help Kenyans to begin to prepare election bila norma.
Yeah. Now, look, the political drumbeats have already begun. We see that almost every other day.
Yes.
Question, what is the strategy of the NCIC towards, what would you use to counter hate speech? Hate speech.
Yes. You know, hate speech is so critical. And, of course, many Kenyans think that NCIC is all about hate speech, because that is what is given publicity. That's what many people remember when we have politicians who we summon and eventually end up in court, or we end up having conciliation with them. So hate speech, we know that the period leading to 2007, 2008 started with hate speeches. Hate speeches against an ethnic community or against different people of different political persuasion. So what we wanted to do with hate speech is we are not going to approach it in the usual way we have done it, because we have realized that it takes very long period before a person who is guilty, I put it in quotation marks, of hate speech, because it goes to investigations, then to DPP, then charges are prepared, it goes to the magistrate court or high court. We have cases that have been there for 3 years plus. This is what we want to now avoid. And the approach that we have used here is what I have called publishing a wall of shame and a wall of fame. A wall of shame is those who have been involved in hate speech and ethnic contempt. Those are the ones that if they are charged 3 times, we will publish that list, and it will be a wall that eventually we would even want to have it permanently put there in front of KICC or wherever, so that people will come and see so and so and so and so have been on the hate speech list.
And they will be there in public, evident.
In public. A
wall of shame.
Absolutely. And so because these are the people who cause violence-related elections, or because most of it, as we have done our analysis very clearly, and we have seen that it's really the time of elections, whether it is by elections, but mainly the main elections. And that is why we want to do this now. We decided to approach this because we as NCIC don't have a power to prosecute. We have been asking for this for a long time. My predecessors tried to have it enacted in Parliament. It didn't happen. Now, what we have come up with, my commission now, is to say let's approach it differently. And already we have a number of people. In fact, we have it's a short list. Now, when I came up with this idea, it was rubbished by some people, said Kenyan politicians don't care. You can put them there whenever number of times, etc. But actually, Jeff, Kenyan politicians do care about their reputation. Kenyan politicians are fathers, their husbands, their brothers, their sisters, they have friends. Who would want to appear and be seen, this politician is on the shame list because of their behavior?
And how will IEBC clear will they refer to this list as well when they clear candidates? Now,
this is where I want to come now to the second approach of this. We have created a multi-agency forum. IEBC, EACC, DCI, DPP, and as NCIC, we are the ones who have put this together. Now, what we wanted to do is to be able to have a multiple approach to hate speech, which has not been done before. Each agency was doing their own work, and then, after they have done investigations, then it goes, to court. Now, what we want to say is that if, and it's not only politicians, even anybody else who is involved in hate speech is also to be part of even that list of shame. So what we have done is that we will make sure that we will put together a multiple charges. So if one escapes one of the agencies, he will not escape the other one. So what we have done is, if you consider EACC, EACC has to clear you to be able to become a candidate for elections. DCIA has to clear you to say you have been of good conduct. And now what we are saying is that one of the questions in terms of clearance is, are you on the NCIC list of wall of shame? Many will not actually make it if they are notorious hate mongers like they have done before. So this is the new approach that we have, and that is why by working together, and this is one of the things that we have put in our strategic plan now and in our roadmap to elections bila norma. Well, so this is a new approach, and I want to believe that it works. Now, it is already working, Jeff. Those who thought that Kenyan politicians don't care, the first time we came up with the 6 names of saying these now, according to our criteria, these can now enter, we can enter them into the list of shame. Some of them came really worried and said, Chairman, really, I want to promise that from now on, if you hear me uttering hate, speeches, etc., then you can summon me again.
So you had already listed them?
Oh, yes.
And you called them in, or?
Yes. We called them in. And we told them that now what we are going to do is to put you. We have said, if you appear 3 times, because we wanted, this has not been done before in Kenya. And now what we wanted to do is to say, this is now going to happen, and it's part of the electoral process, if you will. So, and we are following what politicians are saying in the by-elections, and in any public gatherings that they are, including even in funerals, you know? So this really people began to think twice. So the hate speech prevalence has really gone down. In fact, in the last 3 months since we started this, I can tell you, Jeff, there's very little, and we are monitoring very closely because we have the technological capacity now to be able to record a speech even 500 meters away. We have cameras that can take. So you cannot hide. And that is what they know.
You can't hide anymore.
You can't hide anymore. So it has gone down,
okay,
and we think it is working.
But Chairman, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu challenged you today at Bomas, said provide evidence of all cases to the judiciary.
Yes.
Politicians twist words every now and then. They say, this is not what I meant, this is what I meant. You know, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get around that?
Now, actually, I was very pleased when the Deputy Chief Justice, came with this challenge, because this was also responding to my request to the judiciary to set up a special court to deal with the cases of hate speech, ethnic contempt, and incitement to violence related to elections. And in response to that, she said, okay, bring a watertight evidence. And this is what we are going to do, because we know that in many cases, because of the delay in a magistrate court or in a high court, it stays and stays until it becomes almost stale. Now, what we are going to do is, if we are assured, and this is what the DC assured us today, that they will respond positively to our request to set up a special court for dealing with hate speech cases, ethnic incitement, as I have said. If they do that, and we are working very closely with the DCI, of course, and with the DPP. And the other thing I'm very happy about is that the Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang, and that is our line ministry, has assured us that we'll get the resources we need in order to even have now investigators who are really well trained, so that anytime we are taking a case, the DPP will be sure that this is a watertight case. And that is therefore how we want to assure the judiciary that we will be bringing them cases like this, but then once we bring them, we don't want it to last a year, 2 years, until it almost disappears.
You mentioned a moment ago, Chairman, that you have the technology now.
Yes.
The capability to record video and audio. But video clips and recordings are not admissible in court. How do you expect to nail suspects then?
Exactly. We are aware of that. And the kind of gadgets that we are talking about now are the ones that are, whatever is recorded there, it is admissible in the court. That is why we are working with the Communications Authority of Kenya, because once the Communications Authority of Kenya declares that these gadgets, once they record that, it's not with my phone, I can't record and then go to court. No. So we have that. The DCI also have this, this kind of technology. So, and that is why it's important to consult our efforts. And once we have that, the court, this is admissible in court. So the gadgets we are using today, we have been assured that these, whatever is recorded, whether it's audio or visual, is admissible in court. So we have taken care of that.
Oh, okay, yes, that's good absolutely. To know. Okay, so you said the last 3 months, hate speech has gone down.
Yes.
Do you think this wall of shame that you mentioned, that you talk about, will that be the silver bullet for the 2022 election?
That's what I want to believe. Because until we did it, the hate speech was going up, especially because, as you know, Jeff, Kenyans are very interesting people. I would say in Africa, perhaps, we are the ones who begin campaigns the following day after the elections. So, and that is why it had gone up. It has been going up. Now it has gone down. Of course, one could say there is a corona, there is, but still people are meeting. And one of the big challenges we still have, and we are working around it, is when there is hate speech in social media. And I was coming to that. But I want to believe that what we have done has deterred cases of hate speech.
Dr. Fred Matiang'i today said that the internet will not be shut down. He just spoke about social media. The internet will not be shut down like other countries.
Yes.
So the question is, how are you going to regulate? How are you going to stop hate speech emanating from so-called fake accounts? And there are many out there. Do you have the capacity?
This, as I say, is really the challenge we have, but we are working around it. In fact, I would say right now we have 4 or 5 cases of, I would say, ethnic contempt, even more than hate speech. Ethnic contempt, we have those people who have clearly shown that whatever they said, their behavior, their wants, etc., amount to ethnic contempt and ethnic profiling. Because even that is part of what we deal with. This was done on social media. But and especially with the Kenya Communications Authority of Kenya, and it works 24 hours a day. And it is possible when you are doing something, thinking that is completely, but as long as it is on social media, because social media is public platform. They are able to capture it. It is analyzed, and what we want to do is to make sure that, as we said about watertight cases, that so and X did this or said this, or these are the conversations that they had, and here we have, and we confront them with that evidence, because it is there. It is recorded.
But according to you, it has to be 3 strikes. It's 3 times if they do this. And yes. Before that, it will be what, a warning each time? Or?
Yes. It's a very strong warning the first time, and that is what we have done. And with the first warning, those who were involved in it, some of them have been notorious in the past. But today, and we have been monitoring very closely, it has gone down. So it's a very strong warning. The second one is to say, now, it's like, giving a yellow card, and the last, the red card, and you are out.
And you're on the wall of shame.
Yeah, once you do that, you are on the wall of shame. But let me also say, Jeff, that we also have a wall of fame. Because we don't want to deal with the Kenyans who only are offenders, by having, hate speech, etc., but also those who behave in a way that it promotes ethnic and cohesive living, etc., etc. And we have a very good case here, a politician in Garissa, who we have put on the wall of fame. Was in a public rally, a political rally, and his fans were cheering him, etc. And then they started calling on him to begin to abuse his opponent. And this politician stood and said, look, you are my supporters, I hear you, but what I want you to know is I'm not going to denigrate or do anything that lowers even the dignity of my opponent. If because of that you will not vote for me in 2022, then be it. That is the kind of person that we say, now also should go on the wall of fame, because it's a model. That's the kind of a person we want Kenyans to know. There are politicians of this kind. The other one was in Njoro. And, MP Kadhambi, I could even mention this because this is a wall of fame. I'm not mentioning the names of those who are in shame, so don't ask me for that.
I was about to, actually.
No. But Mheshimiwa Kadhambi, she's from Meru. She's elected in Joro constituency. And this is one person who has, during her time as a member of parliament, really brought people together of different ethnic communities in her constituency of Joro. And through her work, it has shown that really it can work. Kenyans, as ordinary Kenyans, they really would like to live peacefully together, help each other, etc. So that kind of work does require recognition as being done by a person who should enter the wall of fame.
Okay. So you refuse to mention anyone in the hall of shame?
The wall of shame for the moment, Jeff, but when we publish them again...
when they get that red card,
you will know.
We will all know.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a political elite out there, Chairman, who stokes hate, who stokes violence. What will the consequences be? How do you plan to get them?
Now, let me say that although what really is known is that we listen, we, get hold of these individuals, summon them, they record a statement, we start investigations, and I must say we are really very grateful to DCI because they have seconded 8 very well-qualified investigators, and once they are seconded to us, they became part of our staff now. But what we actually prefer is conciliation. We have quite a number of cases that have been settled through conciliation because what we really wanted to do is to see change in behavior and attitude. Or rather say, first of all, change in attitude and then change in behavior. Because it starts with the attitude. When you profile an ethnic community, or when you say things that are contemptuous of, because they belong to this particular, ethnic community. That is what we are talking about. Now, we know that there are those who have that attitude, but might not perhaps have gone to the level of behavior in doing something now physical, say, about it. What we prefer is we talk with them. We really want to know why is it that this is your attitude, and eventually this is your behavior. That way, we have been able to help many who have actually managed to say, okay, we say you do your own introspection, soul searching, and say whether you really want to be a leader who is known for, as you say, there are cases where some people are fairly, well, they are known, for to be not only hate mongers, but organizing their community against another community. But we wanted to talk with them, so this is part of another approach that we have. And we are training people who will be able to talk with these kind of people, so professionally, they really know what they are doing. Secondly, we are involved, and this is part of our mandate on healing and reconciliation. And therefore, we want communities, and we have done quite a lot of this. If it were not for the COVID-19, the way we had started, we really would have brought many changes in many communities, particularly in those areas that are hot spots. Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example. In Narok South, we have been involved there, and in fact, today, we had a young boy of 14 years. Do you know, and he gave his testimony during the launch of our strategic plan. This boy said, look, you see me, I'm young and all that, but I was a fighter. Yes, I have used weapons, I have fought for my people. I left the school so that I could go and fight.
And he's 14.
Yes.
14?
He's 14. By the time he started reforming when he was 12. Okay? It is at that time that he began to realize that really, if he continues this way, by the time he is 16, maybe he's dead. He has no future. Yeah. And so he was approached, and this is part of the work that, as we say, of NCIC, until he was told, look, your future really does not lie in you using an arrow or a spear or whatever. It's just a small boy, and you know, really tiny guy here. Mm. So today he came and said, look, for me, I have reformed. I thank NCIC for what they have done to bring me to this level. I'm back to school. I did not have school fees. Now school fees has been paid. And I'm going to go through education because I wanted to contribute to peace in Kenya, but not to violence. You know, that was a powerful testimony of a young boy like that.
And there are other hotspots, Chairman. Do you plan, I mean, the ordinary Mwananchi, do you plan to get them involved in this kind of peace building?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is it possible?
It is possible, very, very possible. And we already have models on how we can do this. Today, in my remarks, in my speech, I had devoted 2 paragraphs on the importance of working with the Wanjiku. And that's how I call it. But then went on to say that whether it is Mora, or is Kendi, or is Kadambi, or whatever, what we wanted to do is to find ways of making it possible for Kenyans to interact in a way that will begin to know each other better. Because it's only by doing that that we'll be able to deal with prejudices, because there are so many prejudices, as we know, and many young people go through that, the way they are socialized, you know, until it becomes you know, the frame of mind.
Like almost normal.
Yeah. So that's what we are doing now. What we have realized is that Wanjiku really does not want, because Wanjiku are those people who are struggling, and they know if violence breaks out, they will be the biggest losers. But they are mobilized by, you know, leaders, etc., etc. But we want also to tell the ordinary people. That's why I said, you know, the consequences of this kind of behavior. Whether you are big fish or you are small fish, you have to answer and be accountable for your behavior, for your actions.
Yeah, Chairman, there are a lot of critics out there who say the NCIC is a toothless bulldog.
Yes.
What do you need? What would you need to get more teeth?
Yes, I've heard a lot about that, you know, that NCIC is a toothless dog. And the assessment that is made by those who reach that conclusion is only because they haven't heard that we put so many people in prison, etc., and all that. Now, our mandate, when it comes to hate speech, is less than 10%. Our mandate is very broad. So there's a lot of other things that we have done that the ordinary Kenyan doesn't know. And that is why in the new NCIC, I would like really to work with the media in a way that Kenyans will know more about the work of NCIC and not only just the hate speech and how we deal with it. And time also is far gone when we have those leaders who use their people. Once they are even summoned by NCIC, they say mtu wetu anaonewa. And they even come with their people to say, this is our person. But because we have now begun to talk with the ordinary Wananchi, many of them are saying, look, we are, those who you see that they are paid to come to say that it's our person who is being discriminated against. And now what we are doing is the kind of public education which is part of our strategic plan. We are talking not only just of civic education, we are talking of public education as part of this roadmap towards elections bill norma. Because public education does also deal with the helping people to be conscientized, to know. Of course, there is a question, and there are many organizations, particularly of the legal fraternity, who help Kenyans to know their rights, etc., etc. But we also want to bring that level of consciousness that as an electorate, what you do is not only just to wait until the day you vote, but is also to say, what is it that could create situations or conditions that will make the situations so violent that my future is affected by that. So most of the ordinary people, they say they will not be prepared to be now given just whatever amount of money they are given and go to sing praises and all that about the leader. So once we realize that is the case, and this is what we have done through the peace building processes that we have been working on in the last 2 years. Yeah. So what we have realized is that really the ordinary Kenyans would shun violence and all that they needed to be is conscientized about it. That's why we are calling it public education. So public education as part of the roadmap towards elections bill norma, we'll talk about the civic responsibilities, we'll talk about the role of the voter, but also we'll talk about your responsibility to participate in peace building and in reconciliation and in things that will create an environment that will not allow for the hate mongers, for these who incite people into violence. So we want this to be a network and a movement, if you will. Because once we do that, then people know, and they can even, check each other, reinforce each other. And once this happens, we'll see a completely new situation. And we have, in last year, we heard in Nandi, we brought 5 governors, and even, the immediate former chair of the Council of Governors, His Excellency Oparanya, said he has never been in a place where he spent the whole day with so many governors doing nothing but talking about peace. That was the International Peace Day. And from there, they were able to hear testimonies of people who say, we are not prepared to listen to politicians who want us to be against other people. We want cooperation, and if it is competition, let it be fair competition. So really, this is the ordinary Kenyan that we are talking about, and that is why even today I said we want really to invest a lot of resources in giving the capacity to Wajiko to be able to discern the power that they have. Because it's in the Constitution, yeah. But many of them don't know they have that kind of power.
If you were to measure, if you were to gauge the hate and the vitriol in this country on a scale of 1 to 10, where would we be?
Before we announced that we were establishing the wall of shame, I would have put it maybe at 7. Today, I'll put it at 3. But having said that, because of course that is not scientific, Now, we have started, and we are now almost in the middle of a study that is going to show the social index in Kenya today. The last time that this was done was 2013, I would say. And the social index showed a 5.6, which is, and this is scientific. Now we want to do it and find out where we are before we enter now into the real elections season.
Yeah, which is, you know...
So the National Social Index is what will help us to do that. So what I have said is really, you know, an observation that I have made since I became the chairman.
And you hope to maintain that 3, or less?
We want it less. We want it less. We want it to be the exception and not the normal.
Yeah. And then you were talking about multi-agency cooperation. Are you getting that? EACC, DCI, are you getting that multi-agency cooperation?
Yes, very pleasantly, I would say yes, we are getting that. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, when IEBC launched their own 5-year development plan, we talked with the chair and agreed that we are now going to begin regular meetings, in order to be able to compare notes and see where we are with each of these cases. Now, the chairperson of EACC, Archbishop Wapkala, was with us today. He's actually the one who offered the opening prayer. We have agreed that we will continue, to have this meeting. So I'm going to convene a meeting that will bring IEBC, EACC, the Registrar of Political Parties, DCIA, so that we can come together. Then we have now even a winder platform that has been created by the CS Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, and he mentioned it today. That one now brings others, the IG, the AG, all those, I would say, state agencies who have a legitimate interest in making sure that there's less violence, et cetera. So it's work, and it will be working at those 2 levels. There is even a 3rd level of what we call Uwiano platform for peace in Kenya. Now this one, which was created by NCIC before 2017, brings together civil society organizations, religious organizations, almost half of the commissions. And in fact, we met last Friday. We are reactivating this so that now it will also contribute. So what I want really to do, Jeff, is to see that there is a critical mass of those that want to see change in the electoral cycle and electoral processes in Kenya that will ensure that we don't go back to the dark days of 2007,
Absolutely. That's the biggest fear, Chairman. And I think, the easiest thing would be take all these politicians to Kigali, to the Genocide Memorial. Take them all there.
That's very interesting because we have actually suggested this, that the elected, leaders should, as part of their benchmarking, they don't go to America and wherever, they go to Kigali.
Yeah, absolutely. Chairman, that's the
to
one.
Say,
yeah.
Look what could have happened.
Exactly.
We were very close to that. And, it changes people. I did this in my previous job, and it took religious leaders to Kigali. And for the period, that genocide museum, many of them were in tears, and they said, I will do anything and everything to make sure that we don't get there.
That's a good point. Chairman, let's take a break, come back and talk about how do we gain the people's trust again.
Okay.
You know how Kenyans are. We just lost trust in our leadership, in our, in our system. How do we regain that trust?
Okay.
And also moving forward, Chairman, I mean, you seem very optimistic that the next election will be peaceful. We need to reassure Kenyans if that's going to be the case.
Okay.
Keep tweeting, folks. It's an interesting conversation about the way forward and the general election. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's about to start the countdown. What are your thoughts? Let us know at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag JK Live.